They arrive unexpectedly. They grow to the size of multi-story buildings and destroy everything in their path, taking thousands of lives. No, these aren't monsters from popular movies. We're talking about ordinary seawater that suddenly gathers into a tsunami. If you think they'll never affect you, I wouldn't be so sure. How do you recognize such an imminent threat? And how does the ocean produce these killer waves? The greatest danger of a tsunami is its speed. It's no coincidence that in Japanese, tsunami means harbor wave. They say it was coined by fishermen returning with their catch who saw their harbor destroyed by a violent wave they hadn't even seen. The fact is that in the open sea, tsunamis generally don't exceed 1 meter, 3.3 feet in height, but in length, that is, the distance between crests, they can reach 100 to 200 kilometers, 60 to 120 miles. That's at least 1,000 times greater than common waves, and their speed is like that of a jet airplane, only near sharp. The coastal tsunamis reach incredible sizes. So how do we explain the sudden fury of the elements? Wind, as in the case of normal waves, has nothing to do with it. The mass of water is literally pushed by a short, powerful impulse of water, and a sharp, large-scale change occurs in the ocean. The cause can be an earthquake, volcanic eruption, landslide, explosion, the collapse of rocks and glaciers, or even asteroids impacting the water. But the main culprit, in 88% of cases, is seismic activity. The driving energy of a tsunami, unlike a common wave, passes through the water, not over it. Therefore, 95% of a tsunami's life cycle is invisible to the naked eye, and only at the very end does it come to the surface. Prepare to have your perception of the ocean utterly transformed. This isn't just about big waves. It's about an invisible force that can unleash unthinkable destruction in mere minutes. What if the next time you visit the beach, the ocean recedes in a way you've never seen before? Would you know what it means? Would you know how to survive? Stay with us until the very end to learn how these silent killers form and what vital actions can save lives. Welcome to Young Curiosity, where we unravel the mysteries that shape our world. If you're fascinated by the raw power of nature and the science behind Earth's most extreme phenomena, you're in the right place. Please take a moment to smash that like button, subscribe to Young Curiosity for more mind-bending, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring these incredible topics to life. Now take a deep breath and dive deeply into the epicenter of these events with me. Imagine the moment when the lithospheric plates of the Earth's crust move beneath the ocean floor. If the tremor is powerful, reaching almost 8 points on the Richter scale, it signifies that a tsunami cannot be avoided. Because of the sudden shock, one part of the seabed rises while another simultaneously descends, causing the entire ocean above it to begin oscillating vertically, launching a series of waves. If your ship happens to be directly above the center of this submarine earthquake, you might surprisingly be safe, as the height of the waves hitting your side is only about half a meter, 1.64 feet. However, in the vast depths of the ocean, everything is trembling, from the very bottom to the surface. Now, imagine this enormous mass of displaced water, the full column from seabed to surface, now rushing towards the coast at an astonishing speed of 400 to 880 kilometers per hour, 249 to 547 miles per hour, and in some extreme cases, even up to 1,000 kilometers per hour, 621 miles per hour. What you will observe from the coast might not be what you expect if you're anticipating a towering killer wave like those portrayed in disaster movies. You might not be ready for what truly happens, and you yourself could tragically meet your demise, paralyzed by the water's unusual behavior. Before a tsunami truly strikes, the water often recedes dramatically, exposing the seabed far beyond its normal low tide mark. This phenomenon occurs due to the settlement of land at the earthquake's epicenter. Therefore, the absolute worst thing you can do at that crucial moment is to start collecting shells and marine animals from the exposed seabed. This is precisely what many unsuspecting people did when confronted with a tsunami's warning signs for the very first time, not comprehending the imminent danger. Meanwhile, closer to the coast, part of the incoming wave begins to slow down to about 50 kilometers per hour, 31 miles per hour, and the rest of the massive water column starts to pile up, rising dramatically due to this sudden congestion. The deeper the ocean, the higher the wave's crest can become, and the further the water initially recedes, the more grand and destructive the ensuing tsunami will be. But now that you know the reason behind this strange behavior, you can alert others, just as the English schoolgirl Tilly Smith did on the coast of the Indian Ocean in 2004. By a fortunate coincidence, she had just learned in her geography class that water rapidly recedes from the coast before a tsunami. Tilly bravely convinced her parents and everyone around them that they needed to seek safety, and in doing so, she helped save approximately 100 people. Have you ever witnessed an unusual natural phenomenon? Share your story in the comments. Remember that you must act swiftly before the wave decelerates. Once the wave hits the coast, its speed is still tens of kilometers per hour, miles per hour. Therefore, from the moment an alarm is issued or a tsunami appears on the horizon, you typically have a maximum of 20 precious minutes to react. Use those minutes to evacuate, moving at least 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, inland. If moving inland is not feasible due to terrain or time constraints, seek higher ground by climbing onto a sturdy roof or a strong tree. A car is not always the best choice, especially if you don't want to get stuck in traffic among all the others fleeing the incoming disaster. If you find yourself caught in the water, first and foremost, get rid of heavy shoes and clothing. You could easily be struck by debris, and if carried out into the ocean, escaping with heavy waterlogged clothing would be extremely difficult. Additionally, do not rush back enthusiastically into the danger zone when the water recedes. This is precisely what residents of the Soviet city of Severokurilsk tragically did during a tsunami in 1952. As a devastating result, those who survived the first wave were swept away half an hour later by the second, which was about 15 to 18 meters, 49 to 59 feet, high. Unfortunately, this is not uncommon. There are often multiple waves, and the first is not always the largest. The next wave might take 2 to 3 hours to arrive and will face no obstacles because the first wave clears the path, carrying away cars, trees, and property with it. The second wave then carries everything back, further destroying buildings and whatever is in its path. This is exactly what happened in Severokurilsk. The tremors began around 4 in the morning, and when the morning fog lifted, floating fragments in the water were the only remnants of the city on the coast. Therefore, you cannot truly breathe a sigh of relief until at least 3 to 4 hours after the final wave has passed. But do not assume that for your salvation it is sufficient to simply notice the unusual behavior of the water in time. The water does not always recede before a tsunami. Therefore, relying solely on that one sign is not enough. The most accurate information about imminent threats will be provided by a tsunami warning center. The fact is that seismic waves travel much faster than the actual tsunami waves, and the alarm from such a center gives coastal residents a few precious minutes, sometimes even hours, especially if the earthquake's origin is far from the coast. However, it's important to note that not all strong submarine earthquakes lead to tsunamis. A sudden, significant increase in the water level in a specific area of the sea or ocean, detected by monitoring stations, will provide the most precise forecast. It is crucial that the alarm from these measurement points arrives before the wave itself. While we've extensively discussed tsunamis caused by submarine earthquakes, you should not disregard other potential causes of these massive waves. For example, the largest tsunami ever recorded in the world occurred in Alaska's Lituya Bay in 1958. 90 million tons of rock and ice catastrophically fell from the mountains into the bay. the displaced water surged an astonishing 524 meters, 1,720 feet, into the air. A colossal wave then swept through the bay, ripping out trees and tossing a fishing vessel that was 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, from the epicenter clean over a nearby island. And consider the devastating tsunami resulting from the eruption of the Indonesian volcano Krakatoa in the 19th century, which destroyed thousands of ships and claimed tens of thousands of lives. Although, according to statistics, volcanoes are the cause of only about 5% of these disasters, killer waves can be created not only by nature, but also by humanity itself. For instance, by detonating an underwater atomic bomb, as happened in the mid-20th century. And the explosion at great depth raised a wave 29 meters, 95 feet, high. However, there was no widespread damage as it calmed down after breaking about 300 meters, 984 feet from the blast site. The rarest cause of a tsunami involves asteroids with a diameter of more than 1 kilometer, 0.62 miles, falling into the water. For example, according to one theory, the asteroid with a diameter of 11 to 81 kilometers, 6.8 to 50.3 miles, which created a crater 20 kilometers, 12 miles deep, was responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. It deprived Earth of sunlight due to the release of dust into the atmosphere and triggered a series of tsunamis ranging from 14 meters to 1.5 kilometers, 46 feet to 0.93 miles in height. These colossal waves swept across the planet, churning the oceans. The most deadly tsunami in recent memory was the one near the island of Sumatra in 2004, which we briefly mentioned earlier. It impacted 14 countries and claimed over 200,000 lives. The energy released by the earthquake that triggered it was equivalent to 20,000 atomic bombs, like those once dropped on Hiroshima. If you've made plans for future vacations but are suddenly hesitating, don't rush to cancel. In the first place, the greatest danger in terms of tsunamis is the Pacific Ocean area, famously known as the Ring of Fire, due to its intense seismic and volcanic activity. Secondly, in terms of smaller waves, even there, they generally occur no more than 4 times a year. And only once a decade does a record-breaking tsunami, with a height of around 10 meters, about 30 feet, come into existence. Have you ever witnessed a tsunami or another natural disaster? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to receive notifications for new videos, and don't forget to recommend us to your friends.